Hello, I'm Joseph White. Um, this A Life in the Arts is put together a little differently than some of our previous episodes, well, any of our previous episodes. So it's going to be some bits and pieces, and please excuse in advance my rather primitive video editing skills. But we first are going to start with a word from Todd Whitley, the executive director of Masterwork Foundation, about what the foundation is and what we do.
Hello, everyone. For over 60 years, the Masterwork Music and Art Foundation has been supporting excellence in the arts. And today we do so through a number of awards. We offer a Premier Award available for a new work that rotates across a number of artistic disciplines. We offer community arts grants for community-based arts programming and an Emerging Artist Award for an individual artist who has dedicated their lives to the arts. We also offer this series right here, A Life in the Arts, where we celebrate the people and stories of those committed to the arts across a number of spectrums, from artists to performers to administrators and beyond. For more about Masterwork Arts, including how you may become more involved, visit masterworkarts.org. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. And now on to our meeting with Luisa Budea and her life in the arts. Another Life in the Arts by Joseph White. And I'm here with Luisa Budea, who is a wonderful visual artist. And so we're here at a friend's home with one of her creations. Is that in the, I don't know if that's in the frame or not, but anyway.
That's the point.
Okay. But at any rate, so the focus of these lives in the arts has always been how one manages in a society which does not make it easy to create a life in the arts. And so let's start at the beginning. I guess my first question is, you create paintings, and so what was it back then, if you can remember, that first kind of turned you in that direction and pointed you in that way?
Well, that was actually quite a spectacular moment.
Okay.
For one thing, I've noticed that whenever artists or in any discipline
Yes.
speak about how they started, it always starts in childhood.
Yes.
And the reason it starts in childhood is because that is actually the most creative time
Yes.
in a human being's life. There was this, scientist who decided to study the matter, and he designed the creativity test.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger the child, the
more
higher
creative
they scored on the creativity test. And as they got older, their marks started, getting lower and lower and
Mm-hmm.
lower until they became an adult. And it was, close to...
it approaches zero. Yes.
Yes. And so it's really quite an extraordinary thing for an adult to be able to draw like a child.
Mm.
Not draw without technique, of course,
Yeah.
but to really be spontaneous and create. A lot of times the criticism that people, hurl at art, oh, it looks like a child could do it. But people don't realize that that's actually the hardest thing for an adult to do, is to draw like a child draws.
Yeah. There is a story that Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who was the author of the Little Prince
Yes.
book, talks about,
Yes.
and it's a little short story called Mozart Assassinated. But it's and there's a great deal of truth to it. So what was that?
And then Picasso also said very famously that it took him, years to learn how to draw like an adult.
Yes.
And then an equal amount of years to unlearn.
Yes.
And to learn to draw like a child again.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not to discount the people that, join craft and creativity when they become later in life. Those are like, the truly rare personages who
Everyone's
don't
path.
draw. Yeah.
There are a lot of paths, and there's no right or wrong about that.
Yeah. There's that tendency today to appreciate more the people who, draw or paint as if, not necessarily lacking technique, but kind of appearing to ignore technique. Whereas, like, for me, I kind of admire both. I admire both the people who've decided they don't need it.
Yeah.
And the people who...
If one limited oneself to appreciating one or the other, the world, you would live in a much poorer world.
Yes. But, I agree with that entirely.
There's particularly in the 19th century and actually late 18th, there are people who are academic painters.
Yeah.
There are academic composers. They're academic in all the arts. And there's a tendency to kind of not appreciate them as much because they're lacking that spontaneity. We were talking before about AI, and it occurs to me that whereas AI can probably create a lot of art, I don't think we're at the point where it could ever be Beethoven.
Yeah.
Where I'm just doing something that nobody has ever heard before.
Yes. And that is why one of the most appreciated things about an artist is that they have a very individual style that nobody else has nowadays.
Yeah.
Individual style is more valued because, as you've said, people and now even machines can kind of combine elements from other artists and make something that looks similar to what's around them.
Yeah.
But having a look and a feeling that's very individual, that's considered to be part of, the genius of human creativity. Yeah.
Well, and in looking at your work, which we'll get to do later on in this conversation, one thing that struck me is that it's not one look through everything. And but there is a perspective that you can see through everything that's always present. One of the things I found interesting is working in chalk on sidewalk. Something I appreciate because my artwork was in live theater. And the thing about live theater is if you weren't there that night, you didn't see it. And for me, the best theater is the kind that's a little different every night. I used to get some actors and actresses very offended because I would say, well, I don't want to see the same thing tomorrow. Come up, show me something new.
Yes. And that's a similar issue in the art. How do you make something new and stay within your style? But let's get back to that a little later. Let me tell you how it started.
So how did it start? We've wandered off.
So I mentioned childhood because, how that's the most creative time of people's lives. And it's kind of well known that the kind of first milestone where children lose their creativity is when they suddenly become aware of what their world thinks about their work. And that's called the 4th grade slump.
Okay. Right.
And so suddenly from being like, I'm doing this thing because I love doing this thing and it means something to me and it's fun. It goes to, well, what are people going to think about it?
Right.
What are people going to say? Is this good art? Is this, good enough? Is this, does this measure up to people's standards? And that is, as any artist knows, it's just so destructive to the creative process. And so that's where I started doing art.
All right.
I started in the 4th grade slump.
Okay.
My family was always artistic. So from, grade 1 through 4, my brother was the artist. We kind of established in my family that he was very talented for art. and he was already taking, private lessons and everything. And I was the writer. So my family had already decided that I was going to be a great writer. And I was, just writing stories just for fun. And, they teach you in school to write, so you write, And then in 4th grade, I looked at what I had written and I decided that it was all garbage.
Yep.
And I also decided I could never be a great writer because I had read great writers. And I said, I can never do with words what they are doing with words. And so I took everything that I had written from grade 1st to grade 4th and I threw it in the fireplace.
Okay.
And my mother had this just fit, and started crying and wailing like I had killed her baby when she heard that. And I told my mother that I wanted to go to art school. I don't want to write anymore. Okay. And I wanted to go to art school. And then there was 2 reasons why I wanted to go to art school. For one thing, I saw what other people were painting. And I said, you know what? Even if I'm not that talented, I could do better than that. Okay. I don't have to be a master. If this is good enough for, what these people are, considering good enough, right, I could do better than that. And another reason was that up until that point, education had been very, very intellectual. I grew up in Romania and school was very, very rigorous and everything was theoretical. Everything was a pen on paper. There was no practical anything. They've right, kind of improved it now in my son's generation where there's more practical aspects to education. But I really, really wanted something practical. And then drawing and art gave me something practical that I could, do alongside the intellectual stuff, because I wanted to be balanced.
Right.
So I picked art partly for the need for that balance.
So in looking at your work, the other thing that you work in a variety of media, and I guess the question I have is, so what makes a particular subject that you want to create? How do you choose the media and all, and on the other hand, how does the medium
influence
tell you what you want to make next?
Yeah. So the choice of medium comes a lot from culture and a lot from personal necessity. Through my art education, I learned, for one thing, that art can serve the artist, that the creative process itself has value to your development as a human being. And the way I learned that is that by scribbling in class, I could focus better on what the teacher was saying. Whereas if I didn't scribble in class, I couldn't follow the teacher from end to end of a lesson. I would start daydreaming. And so I chose my process in that vein of helping me to hone in and to attain, better focus. Well, and also better calm, and also physically to train my, hand-eye coordination, my fine motor skill, my visual, skills.
Well, and just the physical doing of something, while it provides cues so that you can remember what the intellectual content better, which.
Now it's kind of like, with new developments, it's kind of been discovered that this is very, typical for kids who are ADHD. And so a physical action
Yes.
helps any ADHD child to focus during a lesson. And so, what they do now in schools is they give kids fidgets,
Right.
And they figure out that, for certain kids, for certain neurologies,
That will help.
that will help them do better in school. And they need that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one source for,
Right.
why I chose to do what I chose to do. Another source is the cultural source. We moved to the United States when I was around 12 years old, and leaving everything behind, leaving my family, my culture, my my food, like everything that we knew, the whole tradition, the whole popular knowledge, what you consider common knowledge,
Right.
that whole body of culture, leaving all that behind was quite traumatic.
Yeah.
It's, people don't realize it's so much to transplant from one culture to another. It's not so much about the place. Nowadays, it's a lot easier for people because there's more of an international culture.
Yeah. Oh,
But back when we came right after, communism.
right.
There was a lot less of that. So there was much more difference.
Right.
And so I chose to pursue a technique that linked me to,
Right.
the place where
home.
I came from, to home. Yeah, and that was no accident.
No.
And so the entire process of egg tempera that I use comes from traditional egg tempera painting that was kind of popular in Europe prior to the Renaissance.
Okay.
I went really way back.
Right. I was going to. That dislocation experience, though, it's. I think people think it's an unusual thing, but if you really look at it, almost everyone who's here, if you are not a Native American, has an ancestor who did that. And so we're a whole culture created by that dislocation, which is probably both our strength and some of our weakness too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There are moments in life where that becomes easier. If somebody comes in later in life, what they end up doing is, living in these enclaves that still have the foods and the people who speak the language and kind of like staying there. If someone comes around college age, then they integrate kind of very easily because that's the age when the birds, leave the nest.
Yeah, or you can do both. I actually have a great grandmother, no longer with us, but who immigrated to this country from Norway at the age of 14. Came over on a boat alone. She had a sister who was already here, but yeah, they created an enclave. I mean, they lived in Wisconsin and in Minnesota. You have a major Scandinavian cultural enclave, and that goes back. Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, worried that the American culture was going to become too German.
Yes, that's always the worry.
Yes, and we still have that worry is of course still with us, and it's not all. And while it's not invalid, it's not a particularly good thing, I don't think.
Well, you worry, but then is that a bad thing if it becomes too German? Is it so bad to be German? Is that such a horrible thing?
One of the things I tell, one of those great trivia facts that I tell people is that the Declaration of Independence. And just to date this, we're in the year celebrating the 250th anniversary of that, that it was originally published bilingually.
I did not know that. So what
it was published in English
with...
and German. And for all of those people who were upset by hearing Spanish,
Yes, we have a long
chill. It's
we have a long history of that. Yes,
Well,
we
but-
have a long history of going through waves of immigration and being scared of what they will bring.
human beings
and
are tribal.
also,
We are tribal.
yeah. Well, the new is always scary, right?
Oh,
We like
yeah.
what is familiar, and
Yes.
then that is our job as artists.
Yes.
Is to make people a little less scared of the new.
But at the very first, to shock them a little bit.
Yes.
Actually, that brings us to a particular work, which is
I try to go away from shock value of art, because that was kind of the 20th century vibe.
yeah. Well, and,
Where artists would sort of compete who can make the more shocking thing and make headlines.
and that
And then it's kind of gone too far already.
Well, and that it was okay to make something that communicated absolutely nothing, except that it's different than anything you've ever heard before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that practice had its purpose at the end of the 20th century.
Sure.
Because it's, that was the time when people were holding on to this very, very rigid idea about art. And they needed to say that art can be anything. You can make art out of bottle caps and use tires and whatever. And so it was about opening up this definition of art. But now we're in the 21st century, and the definition is completely open already.
Yeah, you can do anything there.
So then that practice is kind of like continued, but it doesn't really have the same, purpose and impact. Now the purpose is to make the news. It's not to expand the definition of art, because it's already been expanded, right?
And the Dada movement was a long time ago.
Yeah,
And we really don't need to do that again.
Or anymore.
Or what is it? John Cage's, 4 minutes and 31 seconds, which is a man walks out, sits at a piano for 4 minutes and 31 seconds and doesn't play anything.
Yeah,
But the one piece that I was going to reference, which is it's called Bon Appetit, which will hopefully be able to insert a picture so we can share it, which is a recreation of American Gothic, but in hazmat suits. And, I think that what is it? Bilbo Baggins says that about the Shire, which is this beautiful, idyllic place, and everybody says, "Oh, I want to live there." And he says, but I think a good invasion of dragons would be
really
a little helpful once in a while. So
that work is actually a little bit off style for me.
Well, I was going to say, it doesn't look like anything else you did.
And there's this big debate in the arts, and I went through it, which is, we have the ability in postmodern and just as human beings to draw in multiple styles. Mm-hmm. But the typical requirement or idea in the art world is that, you as an artist, you have your style, and that is who you are. That comes from your identity and your abilities and your, creativity. And that's you. And if you have multiple styles, then who are you? So there's this very strong understanding of style as identity for artists,
as opposed to growth.
But we as artists, we have the ability to draw in multiple styles.
Yeah.
There's people that I've shown my abstract work to.
Yeah.
That were then surprised. Oh, you can draw realistically? And it's like, I've had the full academic training, the human figure and the still life and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I chose to do abstraction. But there's this idea that, if you're drawing a certain style, that is you, that is who you are. And then that is all you can do. And I had this debate with myself. Do I try to break this, concept by doing multiple styles consciously and going through the difficulty of trying to sell that to people or to get them to understand it? Or do I stick to my style as a, abstract egg tempera painter?
Well, and do you, having sold so that people do understand, and that has become a product that you can use to do, that thing called making a living, that we all have to figure out how we're going to do. I'm still working on that one for me, and every few years something new shows up. But please don't stop thinking about maybe we could do something different, because it's that's we talked about Picasso, and I mean, good grief, look at how many different styles he created over the course of one lifetime, and any given individual is going to like certain periods of his better than others. But that's really okay.
Yeah. But typically, like when you had an artist in the past, they would go through phases and kind of like, during their phase, they would only do one type of thing. But it is a condition of postmodernism, which is us, my generation, where we actually have the ability to do multiple styles at the same time, and even develop multiple lines of, stylistic development. And we're kind of hiding it because that concept already exists. It's very entrenched in the art world that the artist has to have one movement, one development, one, pass.
Well, the other thing
you brought up that work. The reason I decided finally to, go multi is because I had my son. And I realized that he brought something into my life that I wanted to make a part of my work. And we started doing things together. And that was his aesthetic, that was his influence. He was cartoonish, and video games and pop culture. And, and we started doing things together, And this piece of the American Gothic dressed in hazmat suits, conceptually, it came from me trying to find healthy food for him.
Well, yes, an ongoing challenge.
An ongoing challenge, and that's when I really started to research, food production in America and modern industrialized food production, and on the package of milk and on the package of grain, you've got this, idyllic pictures of red
farm,
fields with a smiling cow and the farmer in overalls and the red barn. But when you go to do the research of what is actually happening, it's all these, foreign workers in hazmat suits, spraying poison all over everything that we're eating. And that is the reality behind our food.
Well,
and so I thought, wow, that's a very, very those are two very, very clashing images.
Well,
and how can I make something that creates awareness of that? So I decided to take the typical farmer, the quintessential American farmer image, the Grant Wood, right?
Yes.
And update it, give it the modern update. So if Grant Wood lived today, he would.
I was going to say, and I actually don't think either of those two models in that painting were actually farmers. I think they were. I want to say, and I'm probably wrong, but I think I recall reading that the man was his pharmacist or something. But that's fine because
yes, and doesn't everybody think that it's his wife, but it's actually his daughter?
Yeah, or something. Anyway, it's whatever it is. It's not what you thought.
Not a compliment to the daughter.
No.
So that's how that came to be, and I've now developed kind of multiple lines of exploring visual aesthetics that I hope will sort of at one point contribute to the idea that any artist can actually work and function in multiple style at once. And there isn't that necessity anymore to commit to one style or to develop one aesthetic. And to have that be their identity. Although some artists are like that, everyone has their own, path.
People should do what feeds their own, for want of a better word, soul, and also figure out how to make that so that it creates some money so that you can buy groceries.
Contradictory that the art world claims to praise novelty and praise invention and value value something that's unique and new, but at the same time there's this pressure on artists to stay with the same style and not diverge from it, which goes kind of like, for me, it goes opposite to trying something new or inventing something new.
Well, and I'm happy that we seem to have at least, you never get over anything, that it'll always be back in another generation, in another form, whatever it was that was. But in many of the arts, I call it the emperor's new clothes effect. That if you presented something to an audience and they didn't understand it, you could feel superior about that.
Yes.
And
there is a lot of...
And there would be other people who could therefore feel superior about, well, I understand that.
Yes, and there's a lot of that sort of elitism in the fine arts, I think, more so than in music or
no, we had we had it in spades in the middle of the century. We had when we got away from having to write tonal music that's based on a key structure, well, then anything. And
Yes, and art followed a similar direction.
Well, and we've moved back to having modern composers who write things that actually create emotion in people and actually communicate something. And
you had the kind of like fine field in the arts, kind of moving away from popular culture, but then popular culture just came and bubbled its own thing again. And now the fine arts find themselves isolated from people, and they're like, well, maybe we've become too elite at this point. Maybe we should dial it back a little bit because we're losing everybody.
Well, and the moment that you think that you're smarter than everyone else because of you, I'm one of the people who understands.
Yes.
That should ring a bell in your head and say, I'm in real trouble now.
Yes. So, and there's always been this, back and forth for artists between, that what they wanted to create and what they wanted to say and that view of the clientele. Right. They always say that the artist is fighting with the audience. That's always been there in the arts.
And that push and pull, that's hopefully drawing the audience to something new and wonderful. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. It's to that I can just be abstruse and you're supposed to.
Well, and we have this, kind of a conflicted and difficult relationship with art dealers because they want to raise the price of a painting.
Yes.
And the way you raise the price of a painting is through that, elite sense. And we want to create something meaningful, which a lot of times is not conducive to raising the price of a painting.
Right, there you go. And well, there is always there's a push and pull between expression and the business of whatever you do. And I worry when artists tell me that they're above the business part in whatever discipline you're in, because that's probably not a good thing. Because but but that push and pull has always existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I heard an anecdote the other day of, I think it was Leipzig, was looking to hire a choir master, and all of the really good ones had already been taken, so they had to consider the second stringers, among whom was Bach. So, okay. So I
So
don't
Bach
think
got hired because all the good ones were
because all the good
taken.
ones. But I'm very happy that Bach found a place that would allow him to pay his rent and have his 20 children. People who, Bach was not a passionless person.
Wait, how many children?
20.
I had to dial back to that one.
And about 6 or 7 of whom were composers.
Oh my gosh.
But so there's that push and pull will always be with us. And so what I think we should do at this point is...
Well, you had asked earlier about the chalk drawings on the sidewalk.
Well, I just think I love that they're ephemeral, and that
yes, they kind of came out of that conversation where I was trying to find a place for the arts in the everyday world, because I really wasn't happy with art being kind of relegated to this elite club, and I thought, well, advertising is everywhere.
Yeah.
And, we were having this conversation earlier. There's this huge talent drain from the arts, from music, from writing, from fine art as well, into advertising. And advertising is everywhere. Advertising is not making you run after it. It's running after you.
Yeah.
And so I thought, can art have a place in everyday life? And that's the answer that I came up with. For those who don't know, one of the big reasons we can't have public art everywhere is simply because you need a permit.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the advertisers can buy the permits.
Yes.
But for artists, that's a little bit more difficult. And so chalk is ephemeral.
Yeah.
So if you put it down, it washes away in a few days.
Yes.
It kind of lets you get around that.
Yes, because you're not
that part.
Yeah.
And I could come up with a process that was simple and fast enough that it could be redone. And it could exist through constant redoing rather than through preservation.
Right.
And I took my inspiration from Eastern practices where, they do, there's several. One is kolam, which they do in India. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, where they create designs for holidays sprinkled in flour outside of their homes and shops. And those designs, disappear by the end of the day. And another one is the Buddhist sand paintings.
The Zen garden.
Yeah. But also the Buddhist sand paintings, which just get brushed away and thrown out at the end of the day. It takes hours and hours to process. In the West, we're so obsessed with preserving things. And I've worked for an antiques gallery. So I've been in the midst of that, where you take every little, scribble and sketch that was done by a famous artist and try to, patch it and preserve it and dip it in chemicals. And, and we have this absolute obsession with preserving, whereas in the East, it's more about renewal. And
and the artist, and some of these things the artist took, balled up, and threw away. So there are some times when things have come out of preservation that I'm very glad someone did that. There's a composer named Camille Saint-Saëns who wrote a lot of big pieces. He wrote operas, one of which is still performed, 100 years later. And but he also wrote a little tiny piece called The Carnival of the Animals, which may be the best thing he ever wrote. And he tried to suppress it during his life because he thought he wanted to be taken seriously. And this piece is
And
anything but
That is
serious.
the fourth grade slump. You see,
Well,
like,
there you go.
that's the mentality that, that where people suppress their own creative impulses because they
Yes.
feel like they want to be perceived in a certain way.
Mozart assassinated.
I'm sorry?
And Mozart assassinated and sometimes it's the creator themselves who is their own assassin.
Oh, yes.
So
There's the self-censorship. Yeah.
And you want a certain amount of that because not everything that one creates is worth preserving. And to know which ones are, though, sometimes we don't.
Yeah. A lot
And
of
sometimes
times,
an outside, set
you
of
just
eyes
kind of,
or ears can have a better insight.
just have to put it out there and, be what may, let it be, as you say.
Yeah, and
Let it have its own life after you've put it out there.
because it's going to have its own life anyway. And we all think we can control everything. And letting go of that is,
Yeah.
I don't know,
And
that's an
speaking
ongoing
about
process.
success in the arts, I've seen a lot of artists who, there's always this, why are some artists successful and some aren't? I've seen a lot of artists who are very, very controlling over their image, and that ends up stifling their success. Very controlling over their public image. Galleries try to, when they see that, they move away from that because they need somebody who's going to be flexible and is going to let them do some of the marketing work.
Yes.
So in terms of success, like that is one thing that you have to do. You have to let go of that control over your public image.
Well,
and let
also,
it develop.
the other thing I will say is that in extreme cases, it also makes you not a person that other people are going to want to be around very much. and that doesn't help either.
Yeah, but not that ever helped or harmed in marketing. No. It's allowing collaboration in that process with whoever your marketing person is, which is what galleries do or dealers do.
Yeah. Well,
and if you're too strict, then your story will never get out there. You kind of have to tell it wrong before you can tell it right.
And who's to say what's when it's right?
Yeah, and who's to say
maybe
when it's
not
right?
you, maybe someone else.
So you have to tolerate some amount of misunderstanding, even if it is a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And be a little flexible about it.
Or just do the thing that you don't take seriously, because that's the thing that actually communicates.
There's a lot of that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you're not taking something seriously, sometimes that's when you actually show up.
That's when real creativity can happen. I just found out that Monty Python was, actually a tax write-off. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if that's completely. And actually, for some reason, I was thinking on the way up here to the. There's one of the Monty Pythons, Eric Idle, did a film called The Ruttles, which is a fake documentary of a fictitious rock group, not unlike Spinal Tap, except not quite as broad. The Ruttles, of course, are the Beatles.
Oh,
and the great theme song from it is their version of John Lennon's "All You Need Is Love," which is "All You Need Is Cash."
Yes, it'd be good to have both.
Yeah,
I'd go for two of them.
Well, in George Harrison, the only reason we have Monty Python's Life of Brian is because George Harrison heard that they were having trouble getting it funded and decided to just put up the money. So,
it's really interesting, the history behind all of these things.
All sorts of things come into being. So
actually, my design came into being like that as well. It came from doodling when I was waiting at my slow computer to load.
I was going to say the thing that
It
that
comes.
that particular design type that because you have a lot of different variations on that, and but that the word that well, there's two. One is that there's a wonderful sense of rhythm in it, but the other one is that it's hypnotic because it's like the people trace mazes, and that it's like a maze that you can wander into, and so, many of your different pieces show different aspects and different convolutions of that and different mazes, and I think this might be a good place
Yeah.
to actually
To actually
some of your
show
work
some
here.
of my
Let's do that.
some of
Okay.
my different patterns. So where that came from is going back to what I said earlier,
Right.
that I developed this habit very early on
Yes.
to focus by doodling, and so the best way to make that the process of drawing conducive of focus is to create repeating patterns. And so I started exploring different types of patterns that exist in nature. And I also have a fascination with mathematics. So I was kind of fascinated with how, mathematical formulas create these, repeating patterns in nature. For plants, it's fractals, the way the branches branch off in repeated, smaller and smaller iterations. For early organisms, it's the spiral, and for plants, it's the Fibonacci spiral. And then there are several other ways that that nature, creates structure in living things and inorganic things.
Well, in looking at the one that's over my shoulder here, that one that actually has both the seashell aspect, but also has the fractal thing, because that's. But I can see how that would actually be. In fact, I might have even done this when I was back in school all those years ago of drawing thing. And again, because if you're physically doing something, it's actually helping you process the
auditory information.
The lecture that has been droning on for an hour and a half.
Yes,
But,
yes. Yes, so this is, an exploration of how things grow through a spiral pattern. And one of the ways that things grow is by varying the interval. For each, row that you add to the spiral, you vary the interval, larger and smaller, larger and smaller. And so this starts out as a line drawing that is one single line.
Right.
And I kind of taught myself in the way of, calligraphy.
Okay.
To kind of create that smooth line and catch that rhythm. It's a little bit like a dance. When you catch that rhythm, when you go out and in and out and in as you're drawing. And then I introduced numeric intervals to that rhythm. So in a circle, if you go out 3 times, in 3 times, it becomes triangular. Right. And if you do that 4 times, it becomes squarish. Right. And so I wanted to explore in not a theoretical way, but in a practical way, how living things gain shape. And there was this very pivotal moment when I read this scientific study about the sea star. Right. The sea star has 5, arms to it. So they did some little genetic modification so that it went from 5 to 4. And from a star, it went into a little square biscuit of a sea star, organism. And so that was kind of the concept and the process behind this type of work, this line of work.
So what's next? What do you see as your next steps in what do you want to create now and into the future?
I would love to do more public art.
Mm.
I would love to do, murals and such, because that would create a place for my work in everyday life. I would like to do mosaic. I already have this
You're right.
as a prototype, as a
Right.
mosaic
Yeah.
made with, collage.
Right.
But the mosaic is a, tremendous undertaking technically.
Yes.
And I would love to do more collaborative works in the future.
Well-
I've done quite a few. I've done some in collaboration with my son. And
Yes.
I loved it. In collaboration with my brother, who's
Yeah.
also an artist. And in collaboration with a group of Romanian artists.
Hmm.
We just formed it, a couple of years ago. It's the Romanian Artist Connection. And we've had a couple of exhibits where we were kind of like, relating our work to one another and doing site-specific installations, and it's really wonderful. Nobody says that art making has to be a solitary endeavor entirely.
Well, there's the part of it if you paint, or that is just you and the medium,
Yeah,
and even if it's in a public space, it's you and the medium. But
and that's the most typical understanding of making art, whatever medium you're using.
but that's not all of it.
But there's always been, this other side, and mostly in public settings where artists did collaborative works. The great cathedrals or the public squares. The fountains.
Well, and the other, I'd like to see more Romanian thing. I mean, the typical, suburban Westerns, we might be vaguely aware that Count Dracula was Romanian.
Yes. Yes, there's
but we
a
don't
lot.
know much more. So.
There is a lot there, yes.
Oh,
yes.
well, yeah.
And, I'd be glad to introduce you to the other members of our group, and maybe they will want to.
Well, we'll see.
Also.
I love doing these. These are not something I get paid for or anything. I auditioned for a chorus when I was 14-ish, and wound up 6 weeks later singing in Carnegie Hall. And that organization is the organization that is now this foundation. And the chorus and this foundation split up about 20 years ago.
Okay.
So the chorus still exists as an entity, but they decided that all of this foundation activity was, because this was everything but the chorus. And they kind of were like, well, what do we want to do this for? We're the important thing.
Theater or any stage performance, has that aspect where you have the stage design, the stage sets, the costumes, the music, it has a visual component and a theatrical component and a musical component.
Yeah, it depends, and the work sort of points you in certain ways too. I mean,
and I know a lot of artists who went into stage design. That's
sure.
definitely one pathway.
It's a place that you can get the work seen.
Yes, and it's a collaborative project where your contribution, creates a part of a bigger puzzle rather than just a masterpiece by one single creator.
Right.
And
as a director, you get to let go of it all because it's not you up there. And if it's any good, it's going to take on a life of its own. And it didn't all come from here.
And movie sets as well. Like there's a lot of artists that went into doing, the stage and movie sets.
Well, listen, one of our greatest living composers is John Williams, and who wrote all that movie music for all of those movies. And, you could tell even at a very early age, there was, when he was in his 20s, there was a really terrible television show called Lost in Space, which is part of the popular culture because it's really so corny.
That's been renewed by Netflix now.
Well, there's
they've
been
glossed it.
there's
They've
been
given it
two reincarnations of it. There was a movie which is really difficult. Like, who thought that this was going to actually work? But that's typical. You become involved in a project and you lose all perspective for what is. But but the original show started out as it was going to be a science fiction adventure show, and it turned into the little kid and the evil Dr. Smith, and it turned into them doing vaudeville. and a guy in a robot suit going, "Warning, warning!"
We all love that. We all love the guy in the robot suit.
The best piece of actual artistic expression in that show was the opening theme music. And it was done twice. And at the time, a man named Johnny Williams wrote both of those. And I remember that it was like the opening theme music was really, it got you set for a space of adventure show. And then it kind of went, oh, okay. It's something different.
Well, I'm so glad that during my interview, I got you to talk about so many different people and so many different artworks, because I don't like that much to talk about myself. Well, I don't like it to be all about me.
Well,
and I also like to be connected to everything around me, to the culture around me, to my roots, and to other fellow artists, and not to exist in isolation.
Well, we usually should talk to Carol, because I will. The one cautionary note that from her, I did at one point say that I was doing my consulting work with public education, and I said, well, my question at this point is, do I have a business, or does the business have me? And she says, oh, I'll tell you right. It's got you. Forget it. You're not in control. And true enough. But anyway.
There are a lot of restrictions with public art on creative license.
Well, it's not even, but it wasn't even that. It's just that the doing of it,
the production aspect.
You'd better like doing it, because you're going to be doing things that when you don't feel like it. And a very, very wise.
That's basically the difference between a professional and a hobbyist. I had someone. I was talking to someone, and she referenced another artist, and he said, "It's so wonderful that she could make a living out of a hobby." And she was painting. And I was oh my God, Lord. That's the difference between a professional and a hobbyist. The hobbyist will do only what they love to do. Whereas a professional will rack their brains and sweat their eyes out.
One of my
and create this vision out of sweat, blood, and tears.
And the one that they hated the doing of it may be the best thing they ever do. One of my theater teachers was a man named Paul Curtis, and he said that the transition point into professionalism is that you learned to move the muse to move you, rather than waiting for the muse to move you. And it's.
Oh, I kind of disagree with that. I think it shows. When artists are put in a position where they have to create and the inspiration is not there, and they're pressured by external factors like deadlines and productions, then you do see a drop in the quality. And I think it would be very helpful if people who were in charge of these things understood that and gave the artist the proper flexibility.
It's a conversation, and but indeed, it can work either way.
Yeah, but
if the deadline becomes God, that's never a good thing.
And then a lot of times, you see an artist who's absolutely brilliant, and they do a public work that's so.
Yeah.
And you know that this person was just under too much constraint.
Right.
But no, what I'm talking about, professionalism, is not about making the muse do something. You can never do that, no matter what. It's about when you do have that muse, is bringing in all of those unpleasant things into making it happen.
Douglas Adams, who was the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which, if you've not read,
I love it.
It's a brilliant book.
I couldn't read it to the end, but I just,
well,
it's brilliant.
Well, the first two books, the subsequent books are, each one is less worth. Yes. Because he was just doing it because, hey, I've got a, publisher will give me a book contract. But he said that he loved deadlines. That he loved the nice whooshing sound they made as they went over your head.
As they went over your head, yes.
But anyway, all right. Well, listen, I think we have a lot of good stuff in there.
We do.
And
it's amazing that we did this without taking a break in one breath.
That's okay. And we may look at it and then find places to insert things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will have my the executive director of the foundation do his little 30 seconds in and 30 seconds out, and we'll get that recorded, and then we'll look to assemble something coherent out of all of this.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. This, I'm not going to say this is like something I feel inspired to do, except I do see that people create wonderful things in all sorts of different media and all sorts of different things. And I don't think people have any idea of what the process is. And yes,
so
I think we need more.
It's a little insight, because then people might think, gee, I could do that, some of that. I could do that in whatever it is that I do.
There is a lot of insight in academic, in academic formats, and it's really a pain to go through. And it's not readily accessible. So
the trouble is that when the insight is written down,
so making something that is more fun. And
it might have been an insight for the first guy.
Yeah.
But if you publish the insight, it's not necessarily going to be the insight for everybody else. But we are all making it up as we go along, always. And the moment that we think that our plan is, that we're just doing the plan, is when it really, it's when I lose interest anyway. So,
there's an element of that, when it becomes predictable, it turns a little boring.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. This has been another Life in the Arts, brought to you by the Masterwork Foundation in its support of excellence in the arts. You'll find links in the comments below to Luisa Budea's artwork and to the work of the Masterwork Foundation. Until next time, I'm Joseph White.